Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are all doing well. I wanted to share my lucid dream meditation experience about a particular time in Lemuria and Atlantis for me. And I have been guided to remember my lives in Lemuria and Atlantis. And so I have been focusing more of my meditations on this particular time frame. And so I wanted to share my visions, my experience with each and every one of you, uh, just in case it resonates. So this may resonate with some of you, and some of you it may not. So that's okay, because this is my experience. And similar to remote viewing, it was almost like I went into one particular experience to view it versus looking at something from above as a whole. It was much more of a fractal of a fractal, the microcosm of the macrocosm. And that's where this particular experience that I went through came to me. And it was quite vivid, actually. So I had laid down and set the intention that I wanted to remember a memory from my time in Lemuria. And so it immediately took me back to a time when I was not even born yet, actually. It had automatically gone back to a time of showing me my mother and my father and the origins of where I came from. And so what I immediately saw was that my mother was Atlantean and my father was Lemurian. And at this time, it was during the time of the war. It was a time when Atlantis and Lemuria were in conflict with one another. And so when you think of Lemuria, the way I look at it is I think of the Pacific. And then when I think of Atlantis, I think of the Atlantic Ocean. And so in this particular vision that I had, I saw Atlantis very much in control of the earth and the energy of the earth. And many from Lemuria were being called to go to Atlantis to help balance and harmonize the energies. So when I think of Lemuria, I think more of the heart chakra. And when I think of Atlantis, I think more of the third eye chakra or even the root chakra. And so in this particular vision or this lucid dream that I had, I saw many people organizing from Lemuria being sent to Atlantis. And this was a combination of masculine and feminine energy. So my father, being Lemurian, was one who was kind of leading the pack. He was, gathering everyone together. And their intention was to bring a heart-based energy to Atlantis, because Atlantis had been taking over the earth's energy, and it was very unharmonized. And so this energy was coming from the mind, it was coming from the ego, and they were taking control of the planet in a more destructive way. And they were utilizing technologies, but they weren't actually centering themselves in their heart. And so the Lemurians were kind of being called upon by God, by source, by the universe, to balance out these energies, almost like a teeter totter is what the analogy that I was getting, or that vision that I was getting. And so, as these Lemurians started to come together, they were coming together in peace and in love. And when they got to Atlantis, the Atlanteans didn't know how to handle their high frequency of love. And so they started to actually either repel from the Lemurians or started to fall in love with the Lemurians, because this was the first time that they had actually experienced this high frequency of love. Because for so long, the Lemurians had detached from the Atlanteans. They wanted to focus on their own energy and create their own energy from the heart. And the Atlanteans wanted to create it through other means, through, free energy and through the mind. And so when they connected, it was almost like it was a very strong magnetic pull, or a very strong magnetic repel from one another. And so some areas it caused conflict, and other areas it caused these Atlanteans to fall head over heels for these Lemurians. But the Lemurians weren't really feeling it. They were there because they knew that they were holding the love frequency. However, the Atlanteans didn't want to lose that because it felt so good. It was such a higher frequency of energy that was coming in that made them feel amazing. And so many of the Atlanteans started to use their power and control to take over the Lemurians. So they started to force relationships. They started to force having children through these interactions. And this is where I come into play, because I saw myself being conceived by my mother, who was a very powerful Atlantean, and she had kind of controlled my father, who was a Lemurian, and they had intercourse, and then they created me, which I am a hybrid. I am a hybrid of a Lemurian and Atlantean. So, this is where, I've seen this my whole life. I've fallen into areas of my heart and also fallen into areas of my mind. And so I have been a balance of the Atlantean and the Lemurian energies. And, all of this started to come to fruition. I lived on the East Coast for, majority of my life. I lived in Western New York, and then I moved to Florida for 20 years. But then something hit me when I turned 40. And it was like, you need to get to the West Coast. And I was being pulled so strongly to the West Coast. I didn't really know why. And now I'm beginning to see why. I was in that Atlantean energy living on the East Coast of the States, near the Atlantic Ocean. And I now, as I turned a certain age, my energy needed to shift. I needed to harmonize, and I was being pulled out to the Pacific coast. And this is where the Lemurian energy is. And this is why, we see a lot of people being pulled and being moved around from where they are. And a lot of it is because we are harmonizing and balancing these Atlantean and Lemurian energies within inside of us. We're balancing out the mind and the heart in the root chakra. And these chakras are playing a huge role, because when you look at the earth, you've got Hawaii, which is the heart chakra on the Pacific. And then you have Mount Shasta, which is the root chakra. And so that's why many of us are being guided over to the Pacific coast. And it's almost like I saw a vision too, as to, why there's so much heavier energy, say in California or the Oregon coast, all the way up to Seattle. And it's because a lot of the Atlanteans had transitioned over to the Pacific coast to feel this energy, to feel this lighter, heart-based energy. And they created these civilizations under the ground, in the earth. And so I was visualizing this, and it was kind of just flashing at me very quickly. And I was having this, aha moment, that, okay, I see that. All right. I understand that. I get that. And so when it was, coming at me, it was almost like I was also seeing an instant replay of what's going on in the world today. And so, and I'm recognizing this. I'm recognizing it with my friends, my family, my clients, that many of us are working through these Atlantean energies, these energies of control and power, and moving through them. And I'm noticing it. It's almost like many people are trying to force connections right now that don't feel in alignment. And this is what the Atlanteans did. They were forcing connections with the Lemurians because they felt that heart-based energy and they wanted more of it. It was like a craving. But with that said, many were not feeling it either. Many were repelling from it because it's all frequency, vibration, and energy, right? So, through this time over 10,000 years ago, we as a civilization were going through this, and now here we are on earth going through it again. And we are seeing this happen, from all structures, from politics to religion to education. I mean, you name it, we are seeing these Atlantean structures start to crumble. And so, I think that's where people like me and probably many of you who could be hybrids out there are bringing in a balanced energy of the Atlantean energy and the Lemurian energy. And so I kind of look back at this too, having that energy, and which area are you teeter-tottering more on, in your life? So, maybe you were, younger, you were more in your Lemurian energy. So then you were attracting Atlanteans into your life. And this could be where you look at, that empath and narcissist connection. And I'm not saying that Atlanteans are bad. It's really just an energy, right? And I'm not saying that Lemurians are good. It's really just an energy. We're looking at the balance of energies here, moving from the mind to the heart. And so this is why we attract certain people into our lives. We are attracting these energies because it's a part of our DNA. It's a part of our cellular structure. And so it's really just a part of our contract to heal this, to balance this out. And this is the information that I was getting, through this particular lucid dream, is that, you know, most of the relationships that I have had have been with people who have been centered in their mind. And I look back at those times and I was centered in my heart. But then when I was centered in my mind, I would attract people who were centered in their heart. And so it's really just this balance of the mind and the heart, and having that cohesion there, right? That heart centered connection with the mind, and balancing that in, grounding that in to us. So it's not, we want to be in one or the other. We really want a beautiful balance between the two. And so, we've got this teeter totter going on that we had over 10,000 years ago, and now we have it going on again. And, we know that history repeats itself because we are in a loop pattern. We are in a cycle. And many of us signed up to come here to balance out these energies, and myself included. And so if this resonates with you, you could be feeling goosebumps. You could get teary eyed. You could have, oh my goodness, a flash of a memory come forward, or you could be repelling this information. You could be like, this is ridiculous. This is not how I feel at all. And that's exactly what happened, back during the times of Atlantis and Lemuria. You either had a very strong attraction to the energy, or a very strong repellent of the energy. And so I just wanted to share this very brief story with each and every one of you. And I also saw myself, as I was flashing, I saw myself burying things. I saw myself in Egypt burying things in the corner of a pyramid. I also saw myself in a beautiful tropical setting, burying things, things as in that appeared to be crystals. It appeared to be minerals and elements. I was burying them, and I looked to be afraid a little. It looked to be chaotic. Um, the sky was very gray, but it had all of these ripples of orange and red in the sky. I don't know how to explain it, but it seemed a little stressful in this vision, but I was burying things. And so there is a myth or a legend about the Lemurian seed crystals, that many of us set intentions on these crystals, and then we placed them or buried them all throughout the earth. And so now when we find a Lemurian seed crystal, it is meant specifically for us. And so it's important that if you have a Lemurian seed crystal, to tune into its energy, maybe sleep with it, set an intention to retrieve the information that is in the crystal, because that crystal was specifically buried by you during that time for you to find during this time. And so, some of this information has been coming forward because I have been working with my specific Lemurian seed crystal that I actually got in Mount Shasta when I visited there. So, for those of you out there who resonate with the Lemurian and Atlantean times, then set an intention. If you haven't found your crystal yet, set an intention to find your crystal, because that information will come forward to you if it is meant to. So, like I said, this may resonate with some of you and it may not. I just wanted to share it because this was a very powerful vision for me, a very powerful dream. And I think some of you out there too may be curious as to, you know, where's your heritage? Where is it coming from? And I have been really diving more into that. And I was guided to learn more about my time in Lemuria and Atlantis and how that played a role into who I am in this incarnation today. So I send each and every one of you so much love and so much uplifting energy. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day or evening wherever you may be in the world.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.